The human voice as an instrument, I believe, is the most unique thing. There's a sort of vocal DNA or vocal barcode. It's completely unique to that person.
The audition process of the BSO is kind of a highly scripted entry into the orchestra. Everyone on stage has one common experience, and that is they all went through an audition to get onto that stage.
The harp really is a very, very direct instrument expressing how you want to sound. The timbre of the instrument is never harsh.
The human voice as an instrument, I believe, is the most unique thing. When anyone hears someone's voice, they can't mistake it for someone else's. There's a sort of vocal DNA or vocal barcode. It's completely unique to that person. And the great joy and challenge for me as a choral conductor is to listen to voices, whether they can blend together and come together and join as a choir. I'm very proud to be the BSO's choral director and the conductor of the Tanglewood Festival Chorus. And in addition to that, I'm also the conductor of the Boston Symphony Children's Choir.
All right, okay.
The approach to rehearsals I'll take is to try and acknowledge the difference between people's voices. You can't have two voices the same, but to try and get people to listen to each other.
That's it.
Once you start making a bigger sound, to see whether you can keep that principle established, even in a large group, so that the audience hears one thing. And obviously in complex polyphonic music, you hear that spread across the four different parts, the traditional soprano, alto, tenor, bass. Ended up having a very broad musical palette right at the beginning, and that has meant, as my career's progressed, that I've worked in all sorts of musical genres, including doing things in the West End in London, doing musical theatre, as well as conducting opera, and inevitably doing a lot of work with choirs as well.
Thanks for your message.
The Tanglewood Festival Chorus is made up of people from all walks of life. Then I work closely with the conductor, talking about things of issues of balance and what is coming across in the audience. So sometimes I will sit halfway back in the symphony hall and listen very carefully, and I will collaborate with the conductor, but also I will go back to the chorus and go back to the drawing board sometimes and say, okay, well, this isn't working. What we need to do is more of this, less of that.
Right, let's do some warming up, please. So stand, put your music on your chair, and can you stretch up? Okay, can you just wake up your face? Hello? Hi. Hi. Hi.
I will often use a little time at the beginning of rehearsals to warm up singers' voices.
Go.
Having been a singer myself, I know that it's very good to have a chance just to focus on your own technique, on your own sound, your own resonance, and just think about your voice.
Where do you get the crescendo from in your body? Where do you get it from, Cora? Your diaphragm, your back, your soul. Yes, you get it everywhere except here. Yes, unless of course you're playing a witch. Okay, so folks, when we get to Tanglewood, the first night we're there, we've got to stage this entire act.
So it was fantastic fun to get to work on La Bohème at Tanglewood this summer. And doing an opera presents numerous challenges, especially for choristers who normally stand in lines and sing within their own voice part in one position. They'll have the score in front of them. So doing something where you're moving around on stage creates lots of practical issues. So what we did was to try and learn the music very thoroughly early on to help the memorization process, but also help the movement. So the singers would understand not just what their own line meant, but what the soloists were singing about and whether they needed to respond to that or actually they were in a different scene and they could face away.
Very, very good. All right, well done, everyone. Give yourselves a clap.
And I'm very keen to be the person that enables people to come and sing and express themselves and to learn about music and to enjoy what we have to offer. Nobody in the audience hears the music the same way, and they come to concerts and they listen to it, they like it, and they go home feeling enriched, changed, challenged sometimes. There's so much to discover. I'm still learning. Everybody in this building is still learning about this great art. And what we try and do here is just get better all the time, to hone what we do, present the best of what we've got, and hope that the audience like it, and then move on to the next glorious piece of music.
I wanted to play in an orchestra, even though I had no idea what that was. And this job, it seemed so big and prestigious and out of my reach.
I remember sitting at home, I would see the broadcasts of the Boston Pops with John Williams. It kind of propelled me into a world where you never really know if that's attainable when you're a child. It's been quite an amazing process to be able to go from sitting in my family room in front of the television to actually being on stage with that same organization.
The audition process at the BSO is kind of a highly scripted entry into the orchestra. Everyone on stage has one common experience, and that is they all went through an audition to get onto that stage.
the idea of coming straight from school into a title position in a major symphony was overwhelming but extremely exciting.
You know, you're walking into a situation where up to 100 of the best horn players you know are going to be in the same room playing their very best. Like, they're trying to get the same job that you want to get.
There was a ton of excitement, but also the understanding that I had a lot of work to do.
The audition is a prescribed process where a committee is chosen amongst the orchestra. They will narrow it down, narrow it down, narrow it down until there's probably a handful left for the finals. The music director is involved, the BSO is involved only in the finals. So he comes for the very last day with the committee, and they all listen to it, and then they select who they want to offer the position to. When they walk out onto the stage, they don't see any people. All they can see is this long curtain drawn across the stage and an empty symphony hall. And they play the same parts that the people just before them played and the people just after them will play.
It can be really intimidating.
The purpose of the screen originally was kind of a counterbalance to what was viewed at the time as the almighty music director. In the 30s, 40s, even into the 50s, would select who they wanted to select by whatever criteria they wanted to select them. It was also put in there, quite honestly, for equality, for race and gender equality. The net result of it was that the number of women in American orchestras increased from the 60s up to the current day.
There used to be a perception that brass instruments in particular were not suited to women, but that's kind of old-fashioned now.
I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've tried to answer the question of what exactly they're listening for. And it's one of those things that you hear it when you hear it, and you recognize it. It's a personality, it's a musical personality, it's a musical point of view, it's musicianship.
If playing music were just as easy as putting down the right buttons and hitting the right note, then everybody would be a musician and we wouldn't have to work so hard to strive for the ability to say what you want to say. It's actually really tricky to get your instrument to speak as if it were an extension of your own voice.
The one thing that I remember specifically is the night before my first audition, having a lot of trouble sleeping. And what I found was that I had the music running through my head sort of on a loop, and I couldn't extract myself from the intensity of all of this musical preparation that I'd done. After I got back home, I was informed that I had advanced and that I would need to come back to Boston for yet another audition. At this point, what had been an anonymous audition, that cloth had come down, and I was now face to face with all of the members of my committee and Seiji Ozawa, who happened to be the music director of the Boston Symphony at that time. What may have been both the most stressful and the most exciting part of the audition was they asked me to sit down, and Seiji came over and he conducted me right in front of my face, and he led me through a Brahms excerpt.
You start working on it maybe 1 or 2 months ahead of time, and you just work up this list. It's kind of repetition until perfection. So winning an audition is an incredible thing. There's a lot of adrenaline, and at the very end, when they offer you the job, there's, just elation.
I think I'm lucky. I think I'm fortunate. And I think that I was able to take advantage of an opportunity by working extremely hard when I was young.
It ranks up there with the day I married my husband, the day my son was born, and the day my daughter was born, and my BSO audition. Those are the days.
Tanglewood Main Gate, this is Claire speaking. How may I help you? Cecilia, go ahead.
Joe here, go ahead.
We need your help over at the ramp with some patrons. Would you mind to the gates open for the concert at Ozawa Hall tonight?
How's Ozawa looking? Is it clear?
Was that what clear?
The guides are a group of typically college age or recent grad students who help us with a variety of tasks.
And every department here relies on the guides. We are the glue that keeps this campus together.
The closest bathroom is right down this path.
It's a great chance to sort of be a public representative of the organization, and we get to talk about...
The test go to Claire.
Go ahead.
They're an amazing team.
Got it.
And I think that there's sort of a process that they all go through from the start of the summer till the end.
We just draw from our disciplines to be able to provide really good customer service and connect with our patrons.
I really like interacting with the public and giving people information about Tanglewood.
I feel like it's something that is such a fantastic opportunity for young people who maybe want to pursue a career in arts administration. They can see the breadth and the scope of what we do at Tanglewood.
I'm studying opera, so I really like being able to listen to the music, go to the performances.
So as a musician myself, I can be practicing music and then hear a professional world orchestra play it the very same night. And I think that that's kind of an experience that you really wouldn't get anywhere but Tanglewood.
And just being able to walk down the Tanglewood Drive and see Yo-Yo Ma on my left and John Williams on my right is an experience I'll never, ever forget.
I think for people, when they first hear the harp, they always think, of course, angels and very angelically, but also it's just the timbre of the instrument is never harsh. I started playing the harp because my mother was a harpist in China, and she had wanted me to play instrument when I was very young, and I started on the piano when I was 5 years old, and I really didn't like practicing the piano at all. So when I turned 9, she said, you have to continue practicing, but maybe you can pick another instrument. So my mom thought, I showed a pretty interest in the harp, and she said, do you want to start on the harp? And I said, yeah, I would like to play the harp. I always think harp spoke to me very personally because I feel more in tune with the instrument because of the direct touching of the strings with my hands, and that's always something I feel more connected to the harp. It's actually not quite clear cut how the harp got started because I feel there are different pockets of the world. So harp really started with the bow and arrow, and that dates back to ancient Egypt. So the harps we play today, or I play, it's called the concert grand harp, and the concert grand harp really didn't get involved until late 1800s. And that is mainly because the instrument of the harp before then stayed pretty much very primitive. The harp really is a very, very direct instrument expressing how you want to sound. And that comes, that's technique with tension, how much pressure you want to put on the strings, or how much less pressure you want to put on the strings, how fast you want to move, or how too fast you're moving on the strings. It's a personal connection with my fingers, mostly directly to strings, and it's a lot of strings. Most of the time, people don't really know that it's our feet that are doing a lot of the work as well. There's a lot involved. You have your fingers, your brain, your head, and as well as your feet. Yeah. Well, music it's probably something it's part of my life without me knowing it's been part of my life because both of my parents are musicians. So even from before I had memory of anything, we had music, at home. And because they both grew up in the Cultural Revolution in China, and at the time, so they have a completely different education, how they learn Western music, because it really, for a period of time, they weren't allowed to play Western music. And I think that's why they really wanted me to be a musician. And at the time, being a musician really meant you sort of you might have an easier future. So to me, music was chosen, but also at the same time, right now, I can't imagine being anything else other than musician.
I honestly think the arts is an extremely important part of growing up, coming of age, stuff like that, because it helps you express yourself in different ways that maybe just talking or something else couldn't do.
DARTS is a creative youth development arts immersion program. We bring together 50 students from different communities across the state every week for 8 weeks to be immersed in the arts in the Berkshires, to create arts here on our campus, and to experience the professional arts around the Berkshires. We begin and end our weeks at Tanglewood. We also go to professional theater production. We visit all of the arts museums in the Berkshires, and we spend every Wednesday at Jacob's Pillow Dance Festival.
If you have props or costumes, you guys feel free to grab them out. This is the time to start using them, okay?
I want to tell you a wild story full of mystery.
The students are exposed to educators who are at the top of their craft, teaching arts workshops in instrumental music, vocal music, dance, theater, and visual art.
You can do anything you want in art.
We start at the top of the show. I'll come out and say something like, these kids are the absolute best. They've created the best show that you'll see in your entire life, and here we go.
Middle school is such a pivotal time because you kind of get a chance to taste everything, but then you get to high school and you don't have time in your schedule to do everything, so you've got to choose something. Having this high quality experience for kids, I think really helps them to figure out what it is that they would like to proceed with.
It looks kind of like a boot, but I was just doing shapes and shadows.
Sounds like a pretty wild story. Take a step-by-step, Ed. I think this is really cool because it's different from all the rest.
This gives you a lot of great opportunities.
Lots of new friends, new experiences.
You have all the same interests, so it's pretty fun because you get to talk about things that with normal friends sometimes you don't talk about because they don't do the same things.
So many of the kids say, I was nominated by my teacher because I was a really good clarinet player, but that week I saw a theater production and it changed my life, and now I participate in the theater.
I came for theater, but now I'm singing, I'm in band, I'm in a couple shows at my school.
I'm being exposed to vocal music, and it's very fun. I haven't really done lots of vocal music. I'm mostly an instrumental kind of guy.
Some of the things that they're interested in and the way they look at the world is very much like other kids who are into the arts.
When students arrive, they're looking for another recreational summer camp, someplace to be away and to be entertained when they come to DARTS. But what we do here at DARTS is we use the arts to build a community.
We are electronics free. The kids are asked to not bring anything with them, no phones, no computers. We don't watch television. We do everything live. We entertain each other.
We're going to see Tarzan this evening. Very excited about that, right? So let me just give you a little overview of the show, and then we're going to talk about what being a good audience member is. That's known as theater etiquette. You should feel free to dress up for this. Going to the theater is quite an occasion.
And then you're going to come down and you're going to meet me.
The mission of the BSO is to create access for students, for families, teachers, and our community. And so the students meet other students from around the state, perhaps from a community that's a little different than their own, so that a 12-year-old from Boston might meet a 12-year-old from the Berkshires and realize things that they have in common that they might not have ever known before.
I think at the beginning they're kind of shy, trying to figure each other out and get acquainted, but now they're all doing their own thing. I've got to be where my spirit can run free. Gotta find my corner of the sun.
When they arrive, some of them have had experience in the arts, but many have not, and it's the first time that they've been able to be immersed in a 100% positive environment, no judgment. We call judgment-free zone, where they can try something maybe for the first time and be surrounded by others who love the arts in the same way that they do.
To learn more about the Boston Symphony Orchestra, please visit www.bso.org.